Buddy, we are joined today with Moody from Monsters Inc. I've enjoyed a lot of the conversations that we've had with abstract builders because I think in the world of attention, uh, we've seen a very growing appetite for really fun games, really interesting play on abstract, and I think this is one of them. Because I've seen a lot of hype around it. I've seen a lot of very smart people invest in Monsters Fun. And I'm glad to have Moody here today to talk about all of this, and we'll get into why maybe and probably why AI agents in gaming have been done wrong and how they can be done right. So Moody, I'd love to just get some of your background, who you are, what's Monsters Fun. We'll jump into it.
Yeah, for sure. The way Monsters of Fun really started is because we saw agents, social agents, really popping up back in like November, like October, November, December of last year, right? And they were performing very well, but like Go Zero, bro. But now we're kind of seeing this huge retrace, right? Like if I show you a Go chart or any of these charts, from like last year, it's like huge retraces, right? And I think a lot of it is because agents back then were very rudimentary, right? They were very straightforward and basic. They were essentially AI Twitter reply bots, right? And I think with Monsters of Fun, we want to create an interesting story and narrative around it, right? Like we want to create agents which people actually want to pay attention to, and there's a story for people to, pay attention to in the long term, rather than just like asking it silly questions or it posting like random observations it might have in the model, right? Like we want to make sure that's actually interesting, and creating like a narrative, like a UFC story behind it, or a TV show really behind these agents.
I- It I know from because I know you tweeted and I saw this. You tweeted about the UFC cards that are coming up. Do you take a lot of inspiration from like what the UFC has done, Pokemon? Like what have like been your biggest areas of like inspiration?
My biggest areas of inspiration obviously has been like these childhood games like Pokemon, like a lot of these RPG games, but also like the UFC is a huge inspiration for me, right? Like started watching the UFC during COVID. I think like many people like I started watching it during COVID, and you just get obsessed, right? Like you want to tune in for every card, and you see the way they build stories with each of these fighters, a narrative, and you get inspired by that, right? Like each fighter has a unique perspective. They have a unique voice, and we want to do the same with monsters.
So you're giving like give each monster its own unique like personality and like people like obviously is every monster unique or is it like oh there's like multiple of this monster out there but like different attributes?
So the way it works is that each monster on Monsters of Fun will be represented through a token, right? An AI like a ERC20 token, AI agent token, right? Similar to like Goat or Zero, right? So for instance, we have Blazecock, which will be its own token, and people can buy into that token, and it will have its own personality, right? Like we have three monsters we're launching with Swarms, Blazecock, and SPF, and each of them is a very different personality, right? Like Swarms, you see the art of it, he's very slow, chilled back. And then Blazecock, we kind of took inspiration from Conor McGregor and a lot of like these shit talkers from the UFC, and then SPF we kind of like went in a more like femme fatale route with her. Like we wanted her to be a bit more sassy in that regard.
It's so interesting because when I think about like a almost like a battler setup, which this is that same style. It's you go in, but you're still clicking during the matches. I noticed that when I did the demo, um, there's personality to these characters that uh you don't usually see that with these kind of like setups. Like you're just putting in like in the Pokemon games, Pikachu doesn't have a personality during that fighting, or you don't expect the holding that uh monster in your inventory to like interact with it outside of like the storyline. You guys have though created like lore via AI, which has been unique. We haven't seen games go that route. It's all been like pre-written. And
Yeah.
I know there's been a ton of talk about that with like GTA 4 or GTA 6 coming out.
Mhm.
With all right, now the storyline could be infinite because you could have unique experiences for every customer.
Yeah, like I think for us, like we wanted to make sure that each AI is like the demo, like that's player versus AI, right? That's one of our modes, but the main thing, like obviously we didn't want to really demo it because it probably wouldn't have made sense, is AI versus AI fights, right? That's like the core part of the game, right? Like this is what makes a lot of people to make money from the game, and is where you have these two AIs fight each other, and whoever wins seals a portion of the loser's market cap, right? I think that's the biggest aspect, and that's what everything really builds up towards, right? Like you want to buy the token, you want to train the AI so it can beat the other AIs, right? So it can be the number one, in terms of market cap, in terms of like level. So that's the main goal, is for it to beat other AIs.
The financial aspect of that, I think, was the most interesting part to me when I was reading, because I was expecting like, oh, when you win, you take some of their XP or you gain XP, but then to read, oh no, if you lose market cap. I was like, oh, well, that's heavily financialized. Was not expecting that. Walk me through that decision making. Like why make it so financialized?
I think there are two modes really for the game. There's this loot battle which I described, and then there's a pot style where it's like the winner just gets the entire pot, right? And the loser doesn't really lose anything. They just get a loss on their record, that monster. But we wanted to do a loot style battle because I think it is fun. Like it's like it is like a survival of the fittest, right? Like we want to have these agents play against each other, and whoever wins, they are rewarded, and whoever loses, we want it to be somewhat of a punishment, and really have stakes, right? Like I think people want to have stakes in the games they're playing. They want to cheer for their team, right? Like being like losing hurts, right? And so we really wanted to up the stakes with some of these battles.
Does that put you guys in, and I don't want to does that make you guys more of like a, not gambling, but there is a financial aspect to it, right? Like there is
Yeah.
more like you are putting up money in a, but like it is skill based in some sense because you've put in effort to train it. Like where's that fine line? How do you see where do you see yourselves playing as far as like the casino that we call crypto?
I think it really comes down to the question, right? Like, are these battles deterministic or random, right? And I think we're somewhat in the middle, right? Like, I think just like UFC fights, right? Like, you have some understanding of like the stats each fighter might have, like what their core strengths are. But in monsters, it's like you have an understanding of what the move sets are, what the stats of the monster are, like pretty quantitatively. But then you also have like AI strategy. So like each AI, like they've been trained by the user, by us as well. So there's the strategy that the AI might come in to beat the other monster, and then obviously we have some random variable in the damage calculation. So there are multiple factors, which we that allow us to be deterministic, where people can be quantitative and being like this monster will win, and there's somewhat of a random variable where there could be an off chance that your quantitative research could be off. So we wanted to be in the fine line between being purely deterministic and like random.
Makes sense. Makes total sense. I I think there is a huge appetite for this type of gameplay, uh, that we've seen others kind of venture into, but I think the AI side makes it way more interesting. Um, can you talk to me about, because you tweeted about in a reply to OSF about the Raise environment. You guys obviously went and did a round. You have some very impressive investors, Bcheck, Legendary, Zeneca, Sammy. I know I'm missing a ton, but you have some massive names that are behind you. Um, and obviously with that comes expectation to execute in a very, very hard niche of crypto, which is the gaming side. Then add on AI, which we both know is a highly complex. It's not trivial, right? Like if you're a project and you come on, oh yeah, we just dropped this AI, like, and it wasn't hard. you probably didn't do anything very interesting or like that's gonna make people stick around. Um, Walk me through the AI side of this. What did you guys have to do? What's that process been like? Um, yeah, I think that's probably being slept on to some extent.
Yeah, I think, when we were first talking to everyone, we were like, when we first started talking to everyone, it was like December, January, and we were like, I was like, yeah, we're going to be launching by the end of Feb. Like, we will be launching 3 weeks after Abstract launches. And, I definitely underestimated it, the complexity around integrating blockchain, integrating AI components, and then, just in general development process, right? Like, I severely underestimated it and the entire process. But, I have a good dev team with me. Like, we've been working very closely. Like, it's a five of us. We have four, like, our team is a size of five, and like the other four people are devs. Like, I'm the only one. I'm still on the engineering side, but I do a lot of the community marketing and product. And so, I have a great team, like a really good support system. So, we really support each other. And, a lot of them come from, like, they help with they do the AI stuff, they do the front and back end. So, a lot of that complexity they take care of. And, um, we kind of thought that maybe we could just use an LLM model. We can use just train ChatGPT on the game. It doesn't work like that. Much more complex. We had to use reinforcement learning, so we had to build these agents from really the ground up on training them on how to play the game, which was super interesting. And I thought that was one of the I know our devs thought that was one of the most fun aspects of it, because it's kind of like which other AI or crypto companies or gaming or crypto companies are really doing this. So, we thought it was pretty cool. And, it's like, in order to build, like, we could have just built another, like, meme coin launchpad or another DEX, and, we've seen it done 100 times within all these different blockchains. But, we wanted to build something fun and unique that really hasn't been done. And really, that's the main part of it, right? Like, we wanted to build something that's fun and original, right? We don't really see projects like this that are very much out there, coming in and trying to, bring in people, right? Like, you always see like very adjacent or very adjacent type products launching, and I think we're coming in from a very different angle, and we're kind of bringing all these different like a lot of DeFi gaming into kind of one package over here.
Yeah, the DeFi for sure. At the market cap side, when you lose the battles and the loot style battler, I totally get that. AI personalities, haven't seen that been brought into gaming well yet, so excited for that. Um, the other component to this is you guys are doing a Genesis sale, 750 capsules. That is the start, and you're going to be doing that on Abstract.
Mhm.
What should people know about the Genesis sale that you have coming up? Is that the only way to participate? How do they get into it? Is there a whitelist? Like, what are the details for this Genesis launch?
So for the Genesis launch, what we have in mind is, we wanted to do something that's like, I wanted to, I was like, if I want to do a Genesis collection, it has to at least bring people utility within the game. It has to have some sort of value to the holders, right? So with that in mind, we started building out the Genesis collection. It's going to be 750 size. It's going to be a premium collection. Like, if you're not really into Monsters of Fun, then I don't really recommend it. But, if you're bullish on what we're building and the future of AI gaming, then I think it's probably the product for you then, where it's like if you hold the NFT, you will get access to, buy, allocate like discounted allocation towards the monsters we launch, as well as boosted in-game multipliers and items. So that's what we had in mind for the capsules.
And that's coming right around the corner, right? Like that's
Very
very
soon.
soon, very soon. And that'll be happening on Abstract. I want to know because we're live on Abstract. If you're watching the stream on X, I implore you, please go to Abstract abs.xyz, go find the stream, hop in there, drop a comment because we're live on Abstract, and you guys have chosen Abstract chain for your chain of choice. Can you walk me through that? Why, and why it's a good fit?
Yeah, I think We wanted to build people who align with our own interests, right? Like I think we could have launched on a base, we could have launched on Solana, and we talked to all of the teams, right? But I think what you see is that all of these teams are very complacent, right? Like they already have like these products. Like Solana has a pump fund. They don't really have an incentive to work with a lot of new apps or builders because like pump fund and all these other existing DeFi products already generate them millions. So even base, the most they will do is send you a form and be like, if you want our accounts to retweet, just fill out this form, right? And it's like I didn't really like that type of behavior attitude. I think, chains always need apps, they always need builders. And I didn't really think that was the best way to, bring on builders. So with Abstract, it was a very different relationship, right? Like you have people in Abstract like Mason, Saigar, Finn, who are like actively trying to bring in builders, take care of them, making sure that, they have what they need to succeed. And really they're building with the people they bring on, right? So I think that's the best way to describe like why people should be building on Abstract rather than I guess other chains, because I think a lot of the incentives that builders have align with their team.
Yeah, I know from my time talking with the abstract team, they're like hungry. They want to be hands on or support you in any way to make you win. Whereas, and no shade at other chains. Well, maybe some
Yeah, no
shade.
shade. I don't mean to be
No, no,
negative.
no. I'm gonna throw some shade here because I think it's kind of lame. Like, you get to a point of like having success, and then you just stop. Like in the early days, Solana and Base. I'll throw some tomatoes here. I think we're so hands on. Like, if you wanted to go build on Solana 2 years ago, they were like, "What can we do? How can we help? Who can we introduce you to?" And now it's like, all right, well, let us know. Like, let us know down the road if you start, blowing up, if we can do anything for you. Base, base, I think is a little bit better. Obviously, I think it is a little crazy with the number of people building on base for them, but uh, like abstract, if you're like, oh, I need XYZ, they are on it, like really, really on it. And I think that
Yeah.
white glove experience has attracted a lot of people, and I think maybe a lot of the community on X has written that off as like, oh, people are just going where attention's going, or they're just going where like, there might be an airdrop and people are farming. But I have to say, like, the onboarding experience from Abstract has been beautifully done, like so great from their team.
Yeah. And I think like you can clearly see on Twitter where like the team is actively shipping, right? They're actively shipping new updates. It doesn't feel very corporate, which I think like if your ecosystem starts feeling very corporate, then it's kind of like odd because like blog the Web3 is meant to be have this decentralized feeling, to feel very that teams are still like low to the ground. They're not very corporate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I'll turn this maybe 180 because we're talking about a founder's engagement with their infra partners. Um, a good question from Edux here, real quick, just about like project decisions, how they're made, and then community involvement within decisions and community involvement. I guess also from like where does the community step in here on your end? It's a good question. Curious on your take there.
Like how project decisions made. So for in terms of how the product, like how we are designing the product, like my previous roles were in more were was being a product manager. So I'm very well versed in like understanding, okay, what does a user need, like especially we look at like if people want to like if you look at the page where people can view the monsters and like decide to swap. We were like, okay, what do users expect, or like what is the natural behavior of people when they go to that page? So we kind of looked at inspirations like Deck Screener, Photon, and then also like looking at like how can we make this game very simple and not overboard the user with information. Um, and then how is the community involved in these decisions? Yeah, like I think we talked to a lot of people within our own community. We asked them to look into the app, especially the early versions of it, get their feedback. So the like we we ask people within our community and just get feedback and iterate on the product like that.
Yeah. How much has the original idea changed from like over each iteration? Because I it sounds like this has been a long time in building, um, to end up with what you are launching with shortly here. Was AI always part of it? Is I guess one question I also have, or was that like, oh wait, AI Meta's picked up, we think we can do this and execute well, let's integrate that in, and that was a whole nother kind of like you had to jump into that like dev vertical.
Yeah, I think AI was always included in it. Like the like I think we saw what social agents were doing, and we thought that was a very consumable way. The biggest change we made, I guess, like when we announced in January that we were building this, we were saying that like you can create your own agent, right? Like you can create your own monster. We kind of backed away from that. We kind of realized that it doesn't really make sense, right? Like we saw platforms like Virtuals and a lot of these other AI agent platforms popping off, and we thought that they were oversaturated, right? Like 5% of coins on Virtuals and these other platforms accounted for like 99% of the value of them, right? Like you had AXPT and like Game on Virtuals accounting for majority of the value of the platform, right? And it created a very asymmetric market, where you had like thousands of dead AI agents on that platform. So we wanted to do something different, where we were like, okay, let's create a curated list where we create the agents, and do a very small amount, like either five or like six or seven, right? Um, so that's the way we kind of went around doing it. That where we kind of said we'll be the ones creating the IP around these agents, and we will create the characters and the personalities around that. So that's the biggest change we made since first launching our website and actually where we are right now.
Interesting. Very interesting. I think the decisions you make for like not letting everybody do their own thing, I think that's a very hard thing to scale. It sounds like that, like the scalability of this and having the right infra partners that allow abstraction of like how hard is it for them to go from, oh, I found out about this game from my friend to being part of the ecosystem. Sounds like Abstract also was a good partner for that reason too. Like you literally just put in your email and you can get there.
Yeah.
Aligns with kind of how you guys are thinking about the onboarding experience in some way.
Yeah, I mean, like, we were talking to someone about this where they were like, oh, you're making crypt like you're making these agents, like your game is making crypto very consumable because it is these very friendly looking creatures, but we were also like, it makes AI very consumable, right? Because these are funny, cute little creatures, and people want to buy them, right? So we're kind of making crypto and AI very consumable, and by having a nice onboarding process with AGW, it just it sets the ingredients to making that happen.
Yes, certainly. I have to also note your community is incredibly active. I the amount of questions pouring in for community are amazing. Um, it seems like you have a lot of interest coming here for the mint that's around the corner. The collectability is one area I'd love to chat on. We'll get to some of these questions throughout the show, but I think collectability for me has been over the last 48 hours very interesting conversation point when it comes to gaming,
Mhm.
especially after Gary V has just done this Topps Chrome collection, and I've seen some others talking about collecting different trading card games within the abstract ecosystem. Um, where do you see like on the collectability side? Is that something that you're thinking about like very heavily? I know you tweeted about some inspiration from Courtyard's growth and customer acquisition strategies. Um, uh, yeah, just the collectability theme. How are you approaching it?
Oh yeah, like Courtyard 3 must have been like so long ago. Like
I do my research, brother. I do my research.
I think the Courtyard, I think Courtyard is one of the most successful like products in the space, right? Like it's up there with OpenSea and Uniswap, where it's like it's such a simple thing where people are, and it's such a simple model, and people are still buying and selling these cards and opening up the vending machines. And I think it is a lot because it made crypto super consumable and made collecting RWA super consumable, right? Because really these cards are real world assets, right? They aren't like houses or real estate or like T-bills that you see as people describe as the forefront of RW. I think these cards are naturally these cards are making just RW super consumable. And speaking in terms of like consumability or collectivity, I think we want to explore that option like later down the line. We just want to make sure that the first product we release, like the first iteration, is something people are interested in, and as we start developing the product, we want to do like more digital cards or like something in that vein. But right now we're just making sure that each agent is cool, the product functions, and the battles work, but definitely that is something we want to explore in the future.
Yeah. No, I do think it is one of the most successful products. It also kind of came out of nowhere on my rate. Like all of a sudden, just one day, I was like, "Oh my god, how is Courtyard doing all this volume?" Um, but it comes back to like, hey, people saw something that they wanted to collect. There's a reason for that. There's some lore. There's some emotional attachment of
Exactly,
interest.
right. It's such a fun experience as well as just opening up those packs, like,
Yeah.
and not knowing which card you're going to get. It's a pretty fun experience.
Yeah, I'm actually driving to the store later this afternoon to go buy some of Gary's VFriend packs
Oh.
because I haven't opened. Dude, the last time I collected cards was like when I was 5 or 6, like Pokemon cards. Like I'm a
Mhm.
'90s kid. Um, it's interesting to see that kind of like, oh, that's interesting to me. I want to like go collect again. The fact that you're thinking about it gets me excited because I think that collectability, these like pack rips, um, doing that in like a non-extractive way is super powerful. Where I think that's where a lot of like projects have like messed up, where that pack rip is just mint and then it's over. Like they don't think about how do we continuously make this a thing where you can come in and buy and it's sustainable and there's a good economy slash marketplace for if you get stuff you don't want, you can still sell it. That's where I think Pokemon and a lot of these, sports card packs have done well is there's still a secondary market once you've bought the original pack.
Exactly, and I agree with that. Right, like I, I like last year I was very much into like One Piece cards, and I would just buy them,
Oh my god.
and like they were so much fun because it was just like a new IP. But I think the biggest downfall that I see, like the biggest annoying aspect of like Pokemon or One Piece, is that the actual game is very confusing. Like you cannot still explain to me how you played Pokemon TCG. It makes no sense to me as compared to like the game. The game is super easy to like catch up on and really understand how to play it. But TCG makes no sense.
Makes no sense. You would have to sit me down for a couple hours, and I still probably would not be able to grasp it. But I think then it comes back to our conversation of monsters that fun. Like, can you make the game fun, but like dead simple? Can you make it tic tac toe? It's very simple. There's
Hmm.
9 squares. You got to get 3 shapes in a row. You go back and forth. Very
Yeah.
simple, but a fun game that everybody plays. Monsters Not Fun is you have these monsters, you go into a battler, you have trained it, you can buy tokens, and you have options for attack or inferno or fire. Like it's very straightforward, and then you win or lose.
Yeah.
It is not this like, hey, you have to spend a week grinding in the trenches, you have to level up this gun. Like it's not complex to that extent.
Yeah, I think like we made it very simple, but obviously there are game theory decisions made, right? Like when you're playing against a monster, right, you have to be like, oh, do I go for my mega right now? Do I go for my a status move, or just a normal damaging move and save up my mega for later, or should I just continually spam like a status move so I lower my opponent's defense or attack? So there are a lot of game theory decisions, but at heart, like anyone can really pick it up and really understand it quickly. So, we wanted to find the right balance between the two.
Love that. On the topic of balance, I had this question earlier. I'd love to get to understand a little bit more. Aski asked this question about how do you balance the AI's real time adaptability? So maybe around the reinforcement learning, but The with the binding curve tokenomics and the unpredictability, like where's the balance there for the AI and I think the user and also I guess the tokenomics there, like it is an area where if you don't get it right, it could be a very diminishing experience on the financial side. If you don't get it right, it's just not fun. Um, so I'm curious how you're approaching that.
Uh, I really don't understand the question that they're asking. But let me try.
Well, I guess like my original question was going to be like you have an AI component there and you have a
Mhm.
user. Like how do you balance like the AI's uh effectiveness versus like you are training that AI? What is the balance there of like, oh, the user has to have a lot of skill and knowledge and training versus oh no, like the AI, like it is you're mostly reliant on the AI.
So the way I would describe, and we made it very consumable, is that we made it very simple to understand, right? Like, if you, what training really is, like, I might be maybe that verb is not the right one to use, but it's meaning like, okay, if you what training is, you come in and you're almost playing, you're trying to beat as many monsters as you can, right? So what we use is we use that data. If you beat the other monster and you beat multiple and you have a streak, we use that data to train the monster on that, right? Like we're like, okay, this is how you did it. Now we can train the monster on that and give it more information.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
that it's not you be giving it prompt engineering or any of that. It's just providing us with data so we can train it better in reinforcement learning.
That's
Uh,
actually so interesting. You're literally just taking here's what the human did, here's how it performed, feed that back to the data, model gets reinforcement learning. So if you a
exactly.
user go on these long winning streaks, you're significantly improving and showing patterns or strategies that now your model or your monster understands.
Exactly. So, like for instance, if you like, when we have those three monsters, you're choosing one of the monsters to be like, you're almost choosing a guild to be a part of, and you choose that guild, and you're training the AI of the guild or the mascot to fight other guild mascots, right? And if you and the more you play as a monster and you beat other monsters, we use that data to improve it so it can beat those other ones better when in a natural fight, right? So that's the way it works.
I like that. I think where I have found distaste for the crypto gaming AI meta has been, well, it's well, like I just minted this and I'm dropping it into a, I had no impact on this. Where in that case, it's like, okay, no, I actually did. Like I found this strategy and I showed it and I won a bunch, and then I watched my monster use that. I'm like, nah, I got it to do that.
Yeah,
Um, you definitely feel like you have more of an impact on the performance than the it's just, hey, I clicked the button, did nothing.
yeah,
I like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it should be fun. It should be fun. We're trying to like we're still in the like in for like development. We're still like working on that process because we've been showing it to some people and we're like, oh, this is kind of basic. Maybe you can make it a bit more interesting and gamified. So the like we're iterating on that specific part of the game right now, which is kind of interesting to talk about in real time.
Are you from like a start to like long term, like what is your long term goal with Monsters Fun? Like where do you see this 5 years down the road if you had your way?
Yeah, I think like with monsters, I think we want to develop these monsters into like interesting IP where it's almost like these monsters are athlete like esports athletes, right? Where we have these esports games, and we have the athletes within them, and essentially like these monsters, these AI agents act as athletes where they play the game for the player, and players benefit from the athletes winning, right? So that's the way I view it. As it's kind of like an interesting new step for esports and for AI entertainment.
AI entertainment, a whole new niche because we haven't. Again, you guys are doing some things that we haven't seen been done before, which I love. Because hate it or love it, that's what pushes the space forward. Like when you go off of the beaten path and do something different, it gives you the ability to have that exponential growth, hit a nerve with the consumer base that they didn't know they loved, or maybe they didn't know they hated, but you know, it definitely is experimental, and that's good for the space.
Yeah.
Do you see like having an are you trying to have like an esports like team at some point? Like have teams of this, or like because
No, no,
right
I
now
feel like
it's
the
very
agents
one
will
on
be the
one.
teams. They'll be the athletes. Like I don't want to create my own esports team. Like these agents will be the athletes, and it'll be like an esports UFC essentially, which is what I'm thinking of it. Like each monster will be an athlete, and um, and that's how it work. Where like like as compared to traditional esports athletes or even UFC athletes, like they get tired, they need breaks, they can't fight week to week. Like these agents will fight week to week. They will post on Twitter as much content as they want to or need to. So yeah, that's kind of the way that's the way I'm viewing these agents. They're almost like athletes for the game.
So each agent will have its own Twitter.
Each agent will have its own Twitter, right? Like for our agents, there's the gaming side, like the which we like. So there are two aspects to our agents, right? There's the gaming side, which we use reinforcement learning for to train how to play the game, and then there's a social side where it has access to an LLM model and it's able to post on Twitter. It will have access to game data, user data, like if you have a conversation with the agent within the game, there's access to that data and it can post about it. So there and token data as well, so it becomes very interesting where it has access to all these different data points to really talk about, right? Like if it has access to who it's going to fight next, it can talk shit about its upcoming opponent, which I feel like will be very fun and interesting on Twitter.
We have yeah, again, haven't seen anybody really employ their game living on on like a web3 chain side, and then also having all of that like interaction also on Twitter. It's a unique dynamic of, hey, there's collectability, but then there's also a social side, there's a trading side. um what is there a speculative side here as well? Like let's say I'm Hunter, I didn't mean anything, and I fall in love. Is there a way, like, can I go buy an agent's token,
Yeah,
um
right.
and then that agent could go win and their market cap goes up? Like there are ways to speculate as an outsider.
Yeah, you just come in, you just buy the token, and people buy it, the market cap will also go up, and if it wins, it goes up. So as a like you speculate on the token, and but also you can speculate on the matches, right? Like matches aren't like purely determined from before, right? Like they're determined when they play out, and you could speculate on who will win in a match, and based on that, you might make money or you might lose money.
Something tells me that the Web3 ecosystem will enjoy that. Uh, it's so interesting. I can see like the little like areas of like inspiration you've taken from. You really must like the UFC, because there are a lot of like nods to like UFC, kind of like the shit talking, the like there's a routine round of matches, the social side, the speculation side. Um,
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I think the UFC has set really a blueprint for modern sports entertainment, and keeping people captivated week to week, or event to event, and what happens between those, right? Like the shit talking, the training, those the small things that lead up to it.
Yeah. Yeah, like we like the UFC, like it's the fighters that really promote themselves, right? Like the UFC is an organization as compared to boxing, like they promote themselves, like they promote their organization, but it's really up to the fighters to promote themselves. That's why you see a lot of them post content on their own, or they talk shit live on Twitter, which I think is like very entertaining, right? Like I wouldn't really tune into like I think the biggest reason you tune into a fight is if there's bad blood between the two fighters, or if they're two amazing prospects, right? So, but the bad blood just makes things so much more interesting, right? There's more on the line. Um, like even in boxing, right? Like you tune into a fight, even if it'll be it'll be a sleep fest. Like you will still tune into a fight because they have bad blood, and it's going to settle the beef between the two. So I think shit talking is such an important part of fighting that we need to have.
Right. Yeah. I I can't tell you the last time I watched boxing, but to watch the Tyson versus Paul fight,
Exactly.
I cannot. Well, I even bet on that too, but it was only because I was like, this is so ridiculous. There's so much bad blood. I absolutely want to see Paul get his head knocked off. Um, yeah, that's a good point. I think the fact that you're taking that into account, um, is and it also comes down to execution, how well you can translate that into Web3 gaming. But that is good stuff to hear from, can we convert that over and have people get really excited?
Yeah. I
Uh,
think that it should be an interesting process. We'll see. It's very experimental. Like I hope people enjoy it and have fun with it, right? That's the main thing as a founder. You want people to really enjoy the product you build.
what is your background in? I'm curious from because again, you did tweet that you didn't have a background in gaming, but you're gonna prove everybody wrong. I'm curious how you got to Monsters.Fun from wherever your career or engineering background started.
Yeah, like my engineering background started while I was at Georgia Tech. It was like I had a degree in computer science, and my threads were in like machine learning and human computer interaction. But I've been in the crypto space for the past like 4 or 5 years. And while it was still while I was at uni, and then when I graduated, I got into more in the crypto side, took on more Solidity roles, and transitioned to product. My previous role was at this company called Mina, which was like a stock X on chain. But I left that role back in like September of last year.
Again, the collectible side there is not lost on me because I feel like
Yeah.
that's like ingrained. Like you have touched and have interest in a lot of different places that yeah, I think is very valuable for a 2025 gaming project um, to understand. And I think if you leave out some of those areas, you don't have that long. Like, do you think about expanding outside of like the digital side in the long term of like whether that's merch or trading cards or whatever? Like, is that something back of mind that you think about?
No, no, not. I haven't really thought about it like that. I've just been super dialed in for the actual product launch. The NFT that I haven't really thought about like anything physical, just because I feel like any physical venture I've touched hasn't done well. So I've always focused more on the digital side of things. I think Luca is the best person who's done something between digital and physical, but I don't know. I feel like maybe that's not within my skill set as yet. But hopefully, that's something we can explore in the future.
Yeah, yeah. I I might be getting a little ahead of myself, but uh, I had to ask. As these
Yeah,
questions come in, I have no filter. I just ask.
yeah.
Um, one question that I'm not sure about, but with the drop, I know this is coming up. I know Azzy Aski also asked this around the exclusive cosmetic skins, perks, etc. What within the mint, what should people expect? I think. What do they get? Might be the better question to ask here.
Yeah, I think, within the mint, you can expect that when it goes live, like a couple of weeks after like we mint out, we'll be launching the main product, and that's when the main benefits will come in. But it'll be a couple of weeks in between the main product launch and the NFT launch, so that should be in people's expectation. The other aspect is when we launch main product, you'll be able to see all the different capsules we've created. Like the ones we showed in our teaser are not the final versions. We still made a lot of changes and edits to them, so they can have that quality that I wanted. But yeah, like we'll have like different rarities. We'll have like the basic, the second rare, and then obviously the rarest one.
Love that. And the chat is blowing up here. I again have to note, chat is very excited. It seems. Is this going to be available for all regions? Is like the number one question I've seen come out here.
What do you mean? Like,
I apparently people want to know, is it going to be available in all regions?
yeah, it should be it should be playable wherever.
Okay. I had to ask because that is like 20 people have asked that now in a row
Okay.
here. Um, I speaking of like availability and global growth, one thing that Abstract has that I thought was interesting, especially since I stood this stream up, and we are streaming live on Abstract, is the fact that you can stream on Abstract and that they have a really, really good way of allowing you to like link what game you're streaming. How do you view the like content creation cycle around this around the game, especially since we've talked about the UFC having the shit talking leading up to things, that being a large component of it, but the actual playing of these matches, um, is that something you have like deep in your mind, and was that a contributing factor to going to Abstract as well?
Yeah, I think like I didn't have like when I first decided to work with Abstract, I didn't have anything. Like we were starting from legit square one.
Oh,
So like
really?
the Abstract team I had a very basic demo. Like it wasn't anything, but the Abstract team was still interested. They were interested in what I built in the past. So that's how we really came together. So like they kind of saw my growth from like having nothing to where we are right now, which is really cool. Because I also vice versa to them, right? Like I saw where I was like in the room when they launched, and to see where they are right now is very cool and interesting. To see the community they've still sustained, like it's pretty interesting, and it's motivating as well. So they kind of grew with us. But yeah, like for in terms of like UGC, like I think we have ways where people like if you're streaming, it's fun. Like we have our roguelike, our training system is like a roguelike game where you keep training the monster, you keep trying to build streaks, and if you lose, right? um so we have ways enabled where people can just train the monster on stream, but also like we have ways for people to post content. Like we have a lot of different checkpoints within the product for people to post on Twitter. Like a lot, we can create a lot of UGC based on a lot what people do within the app. So I think it's pretty exciting. And then obviously the main thing is battles. I think that's heavy streamable, and people can stream like whichever team they're part of. They can commentate. If you're a streamer, you commentate on the battle, and you're hyping up to see if your monster will win or lose. So it should be pretty exciting to see what the reaction will be when the game goes live.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing the content stream from the product come out. I think we can take a second and step back maybe, because we've talked a ton, and I'm sorry if this has been more of like a grind on exactly what is happening with Monsters.fun. I'd love to get your take on the entire industry, what you're excited for outside of building right now. I know you talked to a ton of other founders. You obviously have a lot of other interest outside of like where like maybe collecting is. What has you excited outside of Monsters.fun right now?
What does me? I think obviously OCH season two, like Engineer season two, is super exciting. Um, I'm very excited to see like the other social agents out that could be popping off later this year. Um, Other than that, like I've been very out of like what's coming up within the crypto space. Like I've been very out of it. I've just been focusing within my own lane. So let me ask you, so like what are you excited for
Oh, you're
most?
flipping on me. I think that's a great question. I think, well, man, there's so much happening. I think it will be very interesting to see how Doodles plays out with their token drop.
Mm, yeah.
Um, I think any project that has a large attention magnet to it like them, plus the value expectations and how they are gonna play out. Plus, I think the fact that they also have kind of leaned into, hey, AI agents and AI is going to be a large part of the project going forward. A ton to balance there. Um, very excited to see how that is handled.
Yeah.
So they have my attention. Outside of them, um, I think the entire space is at a turning point right now where the meta has gone from everybody launching a token to everybody launching a token launchpad.
Yes.
Where I think now attention is getting fragmented more and more. Token trading and volume and liquidity is getting more and more fragmented. Now it turns into, okay, now how do you like, where is the puck going? I think that is one of the areas that I'm most interested in understanding as well. Um, but I think for the most part, like I think I think it's a good time to be in Web3. I think it's a good time to be tracking and understanding what is happening within the gaming niche within Web3. I think on chain will be very exciting. Everything happening on Abstract is exciting, but yeah, man, I'm just excited for what is going to happen the rest of the year overall because I think we've had a lot of huge wins for the user at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. Like, I think Doodles will be a very interesting point where it's like, we've seen a lot of NFT projects launch their own token, like primarily like Pudgies and then Azuki. And I think Doodles is kind of like the last of the big five. So it should be super interesting to see how they do. And yeah, I think like it's a very interesting time to be a builder within the space because I don't know, like being a star founder is hard, right? Being an AI founder is somewhat harder because you're entering such a saturated field. But then being a crypto founder is, I think, on another level because
You chose the hardest thing.
I think because like even like being a crypto streamer, like being anything crypto related, making within the space is harder because it's like to see the social the way people socially view you being in crypto is like they kind of have this like feeling like, oh really, like, so it's like that level of restriction I think is a bit annoying, and you have to really prove people even more wrong because being a crypto founder is so much more harder than being existing with any of those other categories, right? So yeah, like I'm excited, to really prove people wrong with this app and build something that's super interesting.
I I'm excited for you. And I'm looking forward to the mint. I'm looking forward to proving everybody wrong. Um, I'm curious. Anything else people should know with mint around the corner? Anything people should do? Should they be joining the Discord? Should they be reading a white paper to get involved with Monsters.fun?
I think, we'll be doing a huge announcement on Monday, a huge announcement that's going to be coming out. And I think people will be very happy with that. Like, if you already whitelisted, you'll be very happy with that. And if you are not, you'll be wanting to get whitelisted because I think it's going to be a huge turning point. And I think it'll bring a lot of new eyes to the project as well. So, should be very exciting.
I'm excited, man. Monday, big announcement. We're just like what, 5 days away? 5 days away from that. And if there aren't on the wait list, like let's say I'm not on the wait list, how do I achieve that? Are there gonna be opportunities coming up here?
Yeah, I think we're giving out whitelist spots in our discords we're giving like 5, 10 whitelist spots like every day in our Discord. And then we're obviously partnering with other communities and giving out whitelist spots. And then also, if you're part of the top 300 referrals on our website, you will be whitelisted automatically. So we're giving a lot of whitelist spots. We're really supporting our community and trying to really give back to them.
Man, exciting. Oh, I don't even know what to expect for this money announcement, but um, it sounds like it's gonna be a massive one. Is there a time for that announcement or just Monday at some
I was
point?
doing 11 a.m. ESC. I always post 11 a.m. ESC. That's when all the announcements go, when all the tweets go live. So, yeah.
Oh man, I'm excited. I am so excited. Well, Moody, I gotta thank you, man, for hopping on, talking about Monsters.fun. Now the anticipation chat is massive. Everybody's like Monday, Monday, Monday. I can't wait. If you aren't already, make sure you're following Moody at Moods Moody on Twitter, Monsters.fun as well. And yeah, make sure you're following them. Again, thanks, brother, for hopping on. I'm not sure if there's anything else people should know, but Was a blast talking to you, and I'm excited.
It was great talking to you as well, Hunter. It was a pleasure.
Dope. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to this week's or today's chat. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. The chat was blowing up. And we'll catch you on the next one Monday. Big announcement. Cheers.